My name's Paul Milo from AFL Victoria. Thankfully, you've pretty much heard all of my presentation through Sean, and I'll explain why. But firstly, in terms of the recognition, and it's a big one from us in terms of what we want to see occurring. And I guess the first one for me is recognition for all of you turning up here on a Saturday morning. It's going to be 30 degrees, probably the first weekend we've had all summer that's going to be like this, and you're stuck in here listening to people like me. And you've got a choice. Pranav has to. He's been told not to play cricket. He's 1 week into the job. You don't have to be here, and you've made the choice to come along here. And I certainly agree with the point of sharing ideas, because they're not going to come from me. I mean, Sean, and we'll touch on Sean and the amateurs, they've got great ideas and thoughts, but the ideas are coming from yourself. So I've been involved in committees before, and you get in there and you do your own thing, and sometimes you don't look outside the bubble or seek help from others as well. Do that. Do that in the opportunity here. I'll try and keep my presentation short, so hopefully that'll allow some extra time to have that collaboration through to the side as well. But and Sean mentioned about having the two resources there, and it may be one of the leading groups. I've been involved in local footy administration and cricket administration since the early 90s, which one says I'm old, but gives me enough sort of knowledge to say I don't know any other sporting competition, local sport in Australia over that time that's had two full-time resources purely for club support. Capitalise on it. It's brilliant. And I guess the recognition then to the board and to Jason to actually invest in that space to make it easier for yourselves to put into practice the thing we all love, which is the game. The earlier the easier that we can make it for yourselves to do that, that's makes our job easier. And Sean is outstanding at what he does. Pranav's a week in, so I'll hold fire on him. But utilise the resources there. So you'll hear from two or three of us here. I'll only sort of touch on sort of 10 or 15, or probably 5 to 10 minutes to be fair, just reinforcing some of the things that Sean's touched on, but also probably just to explain our role and how it sort of works. And then you'll hear from Georgia and also Beth. And Beth's had a strong background to the amateurs as well, being an ex-president of West Brunswick. But I've always had a strong recognition for the amateurs since I used to work for the old VAFA back in the days and Metro Footy back in the 90s. And the amateurs had a great reputation through that time. You won't be able to see this, and it's okay, but it just sort of says this is, and Sean has said that these presentations will be shared, so happy for this to be shared. Just to give you a bit of a sense of AFL Victoria, new head of AFL Victoria, Greg Madigan. We've got 4 key areas of what we do. So this is in terms of the community football team, which helps with a lot of the policy work, and in terms of the points and the salary cap and then the national community football handbook and all of that policy and an operations side we've got in this here. This is our regional network through our regions, country areas. We have the regional managers out there that are supporting the leagues in that space. This is our team, so the team that are working with Sean and Pranav. So you'll hear from Georgia and Beth today, umpiring, coaching, and myself in that club development support. So that again has expanded. In the past, we didn't have anyone previously around a couple of years ago in women and girls. We had one in umpiring, one in coaching, and then one in the club development. So it's an expanded team to provide the extra support that's required. This is our participation team right across the state. So again, they'll have a couple of people in this area. So Zach and Eliza will work in to try and support any of the clubs with the growth of participation. Yes, they'll focus a lot on the next generation coming through and inspiring boys and girls to take up the opportunity. But obviously it's right across all levels of trying to help from a player's point of view. So we've got sort of the off-field support. How do we get more players? and then that'll be sort of targeted if we do have some initiatives specifically on women and girls that we might be looking at. So what we will do, we'll be working with the regions and the leagues more so, and as Sean said before, so we'll directly work in with them, the leagues, to make it a little bit easier for you to then have a connection point into, as opposed to the 800 plus coming direct into us to provide that localised support. And this is what we want to hold ourselves accountable for in terms of providing clarity. And again, I'll keep using Sean, but from our end, that we'll work in with Sean of our team. How do we provide support to make it easier for them? How do we provide insights and information so Sean can make support and decisions there? How responsive are we? What sort of leadership are we providing? So that's sort of a bit of structure, a bit of what we want to be held accountable for. The next slide is a little bit about, again, the types of things that we work on. Again, just a little bit of guidance as to what AFL Vic's role is in this whole ecosystem of the support up through the line. So the 4 pillars that we have in our team, club development, volunteers, coaching, umpiring, women and girls. I won't go through each of those, but certainly, so in collaboration with leagues and regions, support clubs to create improved club matchday environments. That's exactly what we're sort of doing here today, and to provide the sort of resources that that we've got available. And each of the and Beth and Georgia will talk a little bit about the women and girls space as well. So an example of the myriad of things that are out there, and again, we'll connect this next slide into to Sean, and then Sean will and Pranav will utilise that for newsletters that go out, or updates that go out, or conversations at meetings that happen. There's a range of things that happen throughout the course of the year. So what we've tried to do is provide this in a bit of a guidance to say, here are some things that are coming up. And again, so the perfect example before, Sean's outlined, right, here are the 2 immediate grants that are available. Then there'll be things that come up throughout the course of the year as well. And again, don't worry too much about this. This is where the team will help digest this as it works through, because there is a significant number. And I'll touch on some of those. We're at the start of Feb, so I'll touch on some of those that Sean's articulated before, but we've got the Telstra grants there, and just towards the top, the SRV club grants. We provide that, the links there, makes it easy to have the education through. And this website is linked on from the AMO site. The AMO site is, again, market leading of making it easier to find all the things that are available. So keep connected into to that site, and it'll come across to the AFL Vic site. A lot of the leagues will just direct into Club Help, which is great. That's sort of nationwide though. So what the amateurs do is provide that to ensure that it's specific to your needs and the opportunities and the theme rounds and local opportunities in Victoria as well. If anyone's got your phones, feel free to get them out now and scan that QR code, or even walk up. I'm not going to be too offended if someone wants to come up here and get a little bit closer if you're up towards the back of the room. And I'll leave this up for a couple of minutes, but in terms of play.afl/club help, it's a fantastic website. We're always open to new ideas, to more things that can come up. So as you're going through, there's 3 there. So what I'd suggest, if you get onto the first one, hit it as a favourite, and then scan the other ones as well. But there's hundreds of resources there. There's also a search button at the top of that website that you can click on, type in some details, and that'll be give you some guidance as to what you're looking for. Just interested, and won't be offended if it's no one, but is there anyone here that's accessed that website before? Just show of hands. Only a couple. There is so many resources there to make lives easier for our clubs. I know, again, I was on a committee and I was involved in sports administration. I knew about some of these things years ago, but we just did our own thing. Everything that we did, right, let's just create this, or how do we do this? And a lot of the work's already been done. A lot of the templates are there, the position descriptions or guides, or so many things are there. Really strongly encourage you to check that out first. It may be that you work through, check out the AMO's website, check out that. I'd be staggered if something's not there to help out. And then it might be the next step is to contact Sean or Pranav to give a bit of guidance. Say, look, I couldn't find this anywhere. Can you give us a bit of a hand? This is what we're looking for. But I'd be staggered that if it's not there. One of the things that is done nationally is that they'll send out a regular newsletter, Volunteer Connect, which again has really strong, powerful tips and guidance at the right time of year coming out to volunteers. It only goes out to those volunteers that have registered their details on the system, and that might just be that a club has a registrar that's registered, and they might not be the best person to be getting all the information about grants and tips and resources. And so the more volunteers that have registered, and particularly presidents and secretaries, I'd strongly encourage you to, if you haven't already, to register your details onto to Play HQ. We're certainly encouraging treasurers, child safety officers, and I know it's a senior comp, but you all have a role of with child safety as well, because there's so much information that's coming out, and to actually get that in a newsletter, if you're sort of finding that it's not useful, you can opt out, but I'd be staggered if anyone gets those newsletters and doesn't find something useful throughout the course of the year. So definitely, Club Help has got so much there. You'll get the bite-sized information that you need through those newsletters. So register. The more volunteers that register, the better. We will be launching a competition soon, a bit of a promotion where 10 clubs can win up to $1,000. So just from a Vic point of view, by having 5 volunteers registered. So any club that's got 5 or more volunteers registered can win $1,000. We've got 10 of those by the start of May as well, just because we know how valuable it will be to have volunteers that are on the system. And the last one, and you'll notice just even in the little highlights that I just say Telstra footy grants. I'll leave out the word country. Just that the explanation there is that Telstra have put in a sizable chunk of an $8 million fund over the next 4 years. Telstra, you might sort of recall from some of their ads where they've got might be the secretary driving the bus down to pick up everyone, and so their reaction is that, this isn't country footy, this is footy country. So Telstra's motto, and they've done the same with NRL, is the whole of Australia is footy country. So, which includes metropolitan. Yes, we always have a metropolitan country. We advocated for, can we just drop country? No, Telstra wanted footy country. So anyway, it does apply, that's the background. So we definitely get it. So that's a link into that particular site. As Sean said, opens on Monday. The SRV Sporting Club grants as well, as Sean articulated. So the examples of starting to plan out your year, looking at themed rounds. Okay, we might need some equipment. Is there a grant available? Bang, we've got these here. We can do that. So it all sort of ties in. So the work that you're doing, what are we at the 2nd of Feb, can then help in that rest of that pre-season period to get you to a point where you're capitalising on those grants. But let's absolutely maximise this. State government money, let's get as much of that as we possibly can into local footy clubs. And from a Vic point of view, we want as many Victorian clubs, putting the Vic hat on, capitalising on the Telstra Footy Country grants as well. So this one is it's a month-long window. As Sean said, there's a few extra bits and pieces, not difficult, all clubs would be able to do it, but it just takes a little bit of extra work to do. The Telstra grants, very, very simple. Just put in details of the club, ABN, and then it's a bit of a drop down of that's what we want to apply for, brief description. So that one, Telstra Footy grants, is something anyone could quite easily apply for that in minutes. Yeah, we definitely know there's organisations out there that support with grant writing, and they've absolutely got their place. Probably not for this one because they can't apply. It's clubs that do apply, and it's a really simple process to do, and we wanted to make sure that was the case. The raffle is another one that I'm a massive advocate for, and Sean mentioned it before, but there's $350,000 worth of prizes. All the work's already done. No T's and C's works that needs to be done to put it together. Don't have to go out and source or pay for or do any of that work. It's already there, and the clubs retain every cent of what's spent in terms of the prizes, the $5 tickets as well. So strongly encourage a consideration of that. That's a really, really quick rip around. As I said, probably doesn't cover anything more than what Sean's already covered, but reinforces some of those things. But yeah, really want to appreciate your time, and I might hand it over to Georgia. I'll just double check that. No, I don't have any more. I'll hand it over to Georgia.
So as Paul mentioned, Beth and I are the women's and girls team for AFL Victoria. So back in 2021, the AFL launched the Women's Football Vision, and in line with that, it was revamped and relaunched at the end of last year. In line with that, the Women's and Girls Action Plan was created nationally. So we have 4 key pillars in our Women's and Girls Action Plan. So the first phase is a 3-year phase. So we go through participation, coaching, umpiring, and then environments and leadership. So for Beth and I, we are in charge of the strategic direction of all 4 of those pillars for Victoria. So we won't touch on participation, umpiring and coaching today, but we are going to touch on some of the things that our team are offering to you in leadership and environments for this year. So I will hand it over to Beth to go through all of that.
All right, so I'm Beth. My pronouns are she, her. I'm the Women and Girls Community Football Coordinator. As Paul mentioned, I've had a connection to the VAFA for some time, so I know quite a few of the people in the room, but there are a lot of new faces as well. We're talking today about some specific programs that are available to your clubs or to people within your clubs. These programs, we really encourage you to get involved in as much as you can. This is a great time to be growing your women and girls space and your inclusion space. And when we talk about women and girls from our AFL Vic perspective, we're not just talking about women and girls on the field. We're talking about making your club accessible across all of those different pillars that Georgia mentioned. The first one I want to touch on is available to all football clubs across the country, and it is something that I encourage you all to sign your clubs up to this year, and that is the Women and Girls Football Charter. This is not just for clubs that have women and girls teams, this is for any football club. And what it is intended to do is actually get clubs thinking about what they can do in this space to improve their environments, to be able to make sure that your club and your community is accessible and inclusive for anyone who wants to come down, and to support you to do that. Paul and Sean both spoke about making things easy for you. We know that as volunteers, there are a lot on your plates. There are a lot of things expected of you, and we want to make sure that this is as easy as possible. Sean also spoke about strategic planning. This builds into that. What we are calling a Quick Wins Action Plan is essentially a form of strategic planning, but we're giving you the bones of that to be able to tick it off. All you have to do for this process is actually sign your club up online. What you'll do is express interest in being involved. You'll have someone reach out to you from either AFL National or AFL Vic, it would likely be Georgia or myself, to speak to you about actually accessing a checklist to see where your club currently stands, and then going through for a Quick Wins Action Plan. So those quick wins are really simple steps that you can take to make your club environment more inclusive. So a lot of those things your clubs are probably already doing. That means you tick it off straight away in your checklist. But if you're not, it allows you to plan for it. This is our 101. So this is where we want every single club starting, whether you have women and girls or not, whether you're looking to that in the future, whether it is just more broadly about how do you get more women or gender diverse people on your committees, coaching panels, umpiring groups, whatever it might be. You can promote your club as a signatory to this charter once it's been ticked off. Once you've done your action plan, you'll appear on the AFL Club Help website as a signatory to the charter. There's a little bit of work involved. It's not we're going to sign up and we can say that we've done this. There is some actions there, but that is what's actually going to create the improved environments at your clubs. You'll get assets to be able to promote that. You can put things on your website to say, we're taking these steps. And I've put a little fair access evidence buzzer up there. Put your hand up if you've heard about fair access policy so far. Only a few hands up. I'm going to touch on that really briefly shortly. This is actually, the information went up online yesterday through Club Help. I've linked to it in a couple of pages. I'm also going to send some information to Sean to be able to send out to you, but I would really encourage you to look into that and start taking some actions to make sure that your club is a signatory to get that initial support. If this is our 101, the Inclusive Clubs program is kind of our intermediate or advanced program. We actually had some VAFA clubs be part of the pilot for this, so you may have heard of this before in 2022, but VAFA is going to run a program this year. There are spaces for 5 clubs. This is a more robust version of the charter, where you're actually going to go through and get 2 face-to-face workshops and education sessions, plus access to online modules that focus in really closely on gender equity, action planning, governance, leadership, the things that you can do in your clubs to build on this. So this would be your first step leading into the Inclusive Clubs program. So the 2 face-to-face workshops run for about 2 hours each. They're facilitated by an external facilitator from Leisure Networks who do a lot of work in this inclusion space and work a lot. They're a regional sports assembly, so they provide this kind of learning to clubs and to communities all over the state. With that, you also receive 6 months of support from myself, Georgia, our club development support team, which Sean is a part of, to actually implement the action plan that you would develop. So you're going into a little bit more detail to identify some short-term wins, some medium-term goals, and what are you actually looking to achieve and where are you looking to go in this space? Do you want to be a leader in this space? Have you already taken a lot of actions to get you there, but you just need to know how you can actually build on that with guided support? This could be a club, this could be a program that appeals to you and your club. If that sounds like it's something of interest to you, Sean has access to the flyers and the information. I would suggest that you send him an email and say, I'm really interested in hearing more about this. It's likely it's going to run some point around mid-season, we're thinking, but that will depend on who wants to be involved and when you're available. So I do really encourage you to reach out to Sean to express your interest in that. It's a great program. It's very, very rare to have that kind of 6 months of one-on-one support and access to be able to guide you through your goals and implement that. Anything you do in that plan can form part of your strategic plan. Once again, that's fair access evidence. I'll swing back to that in a second. The last one I want to talk to you about today is a brand new program. One of the things that we're introducing through our focus in the Women and Girls Action Plan is really focusing in on providing further opportunities and support for more women and gender diverse people to move into leadership positions at their club. So we know that there are a lot of women and girls playing. We know that we're building in terms of coaching. I think nationally we're sitting at about 11%. We're looking to build that as well. There's programs available for umpires, programs are available for coaches. We're now moving into those programs and support that are available for people like you guys in the room to actually access an opportunity to develop a network, receive education. So if you are a female or gender diverse person who is in a current committee position, which that applies to a lot of people in this room, you have the opportunity to apply to be a part of this program. Applications are going to be opening relatively soon. You'll need to be endorsed by Sean and the league, and those applications will come through to us. So speak to Sean about that if you have interest, but you can put in the application online yourself via the AFL Victoria website. There's only 50 places at this stage across the state. So put some time into your application if that's something you're interested in. It's looking at supporting people who are at that upper level of guiding their clubs. So we're looking at presidents or future presidents. But the opportunity to connect with people from across the state, get that education, get that support, build a network, attend the 3-part series. So 2 will be face-to-face, including a networking event that will probably tie in with the AFLW season, and an online webinar. But the opportunity to actually build a community where you have a network of support. If you are a man in the room, but you have someone at your club who's not here today that this might appeal to, I would really encourage you to start thinking about who might this be a really good opportunity for. Is there someone on your committee currently who you think, with additional support, with a network, with some extra education and building of confidence, they would actually make a really, really great president in the future? Encourage them to apply. Even if they don't get into this year's program, there might be further opportunities. We'll be able to reach out to them. We will be aware of them. It would be a great opportunity for us to have heaps of applicants coming from the league to want to get involved in that program. The fair access policy, so there wasn't a lot of people that put their hand up, so I'll give you a really, really, really brief overview of what fair access actually means, and I have put a QR code up to access the fair policy website as well. Fair policy and the fair policy roadmap has been introduced by the Victorian Government through the Office for Women in Sport. Every council by July 1st will have to have introduced or adapted a policy that specifically relates to fair access to community sporting facilities to increase inclusive environments and gender equity for women and girls. So for everyone here, most clubs are working through community facilities. Most clubs will have some requirement to provide evidence that you are actually taking action in this space to provide an inclusive environment and fair access at your clubs. That will mean different things for different LGAs, depending on what council you work with. They will all be different policies. There'll be 79 separate policies across the state. So I can't speak to what will be in your individual LGA's policy, but I can speak broadly about what we've seen so far and what support we have from an AFL Vic standpoint. And I am going to go through just really quickly some key points about those policies. It's not about facilities. Okay, when we talk about environments, we're not talking about the physical building that you get changed in. That is a really big misconception at the moment. It is causing a bit of stress for clubs. You won't be penalised for your facilities. This is about how you provide access to those facilities. And there's documentation coming on how you can do that in the best way and how you can make the best use of the facilities you have. We are not expecting clubs to be told that they can't field teams because they don't have facilities that meet best practice. That's not on you, that will be on your council as part of this policy. Education and progress are the two things we're seeing so far come through the drafts or the policies that have been adopted so far. Councils are looking for evidence that you are educating your leaders, your players, your community on what fair access and inclusion means, and they're looking for evidence that you're actually planning to make improvement in this space. That's where we come in. We can support you to actually do those things and take those actions without you having to reinvent the wheel or come up with something from scratch. So take advantage of any opportunity you can. The league provide heaps of opportunities. Everything that's going to be talked about in this room is an opportunity for you to provide evidence to inclusive environments at your club. Show that you're making progress or you're planning for progress. If you're a club that doesn't have women and girls teams currently, are you planning to do that, and how can you show that you are planning to do that? Is it just an idea, or do you have it written down in a document somewhere, such as your Quick Wins action plan, that you're actually working towards making changes to implement that? And the last one is the communication piece. As I said, can't speak to the 79 individual policies that are being adopted, but make sure that you are in touch with your council, building that relationship with them, understanding what their expectations around this policy are going to be, and more broadly at your club. And if you do have concerns that the policy you are not going to be able to meet what they're asking of you, please do make sure that you reach out to Sean, let him know that you have concerns, and we'll be able to work to support clubs if that is the case. We have contacts in with the councils as well. So if you are concerned, reach out, But otherwise, by taking advantage of things like this, you should be able to use those to support fair access, particularly around the charter, where you'll have your quick wins action plan. A lot of councils that we've seen so far are asking for evidence of action planning. You have a template that will be provided to you and a reflection document that you can download, adapt to your club and provide to your council. The work is done. With regards to leadership, if you have someone through the Lead Your Way program, that's more evidence. If you're putting your coaches through the opportunities that are currently available for women and gender diverse people in coaching, that's evidence for you. Everything that we kind of do in this space works to support your ability to make sure that you're meeting the requirements of fair access from your council. And that's the thing about the face-to-face workshops and things like that. We know that it's a big ask to give you, for you guys to give up your time and come out to Elstonwick Park and put in that time. We hope that in the long term, with that support and with that time to action plan, that we're actually saving you some time and taking away kind of some of those challenges, making it a bit easier for you. What I've put up here as well, Paul and Sean have both already talked about Club Help. That is a really great resource. I didn't know about that when I was a president. I wrote that many documents that already exist. You don't have to do that. That time could be so much better spent on other things. Use what's there and adapt those policies. This QR code will take you directly to the Women and Girls page. That talks a lot about our volunteer programs, including the link to the Women's Football Charter. So all of that information, that's a really great resource. This one takes you specifically to the play page for coaching. We haven't spoken about coaching, but there are great opportunities right now, fully funded programs specifically for women and gender diverse people who are starting their coaching journey or are advancing and moving up in that space, to educate them, to offer them mentoring and support. And there's a lot of resources there for people in your club. If you have men coaching your women's team, for how to coach women and girls teams, things like prep to play, injury prevention, a whole heap of items that are really valuable. So make sure you check out that page as well. For fair access, head to the Change Our Game site. That will cover off everything. I would suggest that you look at the Fair Access Principles Guide, because that will actually give you examples of what you can do at your club to meet fair access. And the last thing I would say is make sure, and a really great thing through the charter is that you will be added to our mailing list for your club to receive communications about ongoing opportunities to improve environments and increase opportunities for women and girls. When we ran a lot of events at the end of last year, we did get some feedback that people weren't aware of those programs. If you are not signed up to the newsletters, we can't email you. If you haven't ticked the box to accept communications from AFL Victoria, we can't email you. So go back and check your preferences on the LMS. Make sure that I know it's like, I did the same thing, don't want to receive communications, but the ones from AFL Victoria will actually send you opportunities, things like free networking events, education, webinar, all of those things. Jump on, make sure you're getting access to all the opportunities that you have, because things that come out from us are going to be free, and hopefully will allow you to make better use of your time as a volunteer.